Robotic process automation and intelligent automation over the last few years has been an absolute rocket ship of a category. Today, organizations are looking to take their investments into this automation to the next step, really scaling out this automation across the organization. Enterprise Value Chain Approach, EVCA, is a new framework that Automation Anywhere is introducing that helps these organizations achieve that specific goal. My name is Kashif Mahboob. I lead product marketing at Automation Anywhere, the leader in robotic process automation and intelligent automation. And in this series of EVCA sessions, we will walk you through a framework to achieve that building of an automation pipeline throughout your organization. In today's session, I will be joined by Ken Mertzel, who leads our global financial solutions, and we will be focusing on EVCA in the context of finance and accounting. More specifically, we will be talking about one specific area within finance and accounting, and that is record to report, R2R. Ken, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure, happy to, Kashif. I'm the global industry leader for financial services at Automation Anywhere, and I've spent my entire career in finance and in financial services. Prior to Automation Anywhere, I was at Bank of America for 15 years, half of that as CFO of the insurance group, and then most recently worked for the Chief Accounting Officer, where I managed financial operations, but helped also implement the first proof of concept of RPA within finance. So I can relate to the journey that many of you are going through.
Can help us understand the role of RPA and how it combines, or the role of RPA, I should say, within the finance and accounting function.
Sure. I mean, finance is absolutely a critical user of RPA and probably the original use case for RPA. Today, over 30% of deployments in RPA are in the finance function. And I think part of the reason for that is that finance tends to try to lead by example, and it's often the organization that brings RPA into a company. And I think particularly because they've typically realized significant benefits.
Now, RPA has been spreading widely. Would you mind touching on some of the benefits of RPA within F&A in specific?
Sure. I think initially when finance organizations bring on board RPA, they're typically looking for operational efficiency and cost reduction. However, once they've begun using RPA, they realize there are significant additional benefits. First, it certainly can help enhance the timeliness of information, which is absolutely critical in terms of accelerating the close and providing information to the business to make quick decisions. Secondly, finance is all about strengthening governance and controls. And RPA can often be used to automate manual controls, tighten controls, provide audit trails to understand exactly what's been run when. And in addition, really can be used as a tool to empower employees in the sense that RPA is typically used as a digital assistant to help perform many manual repetitive tasks and therefore free up the employees to do much more value-added work and analysis.
Now, F&A is a large function in itself. What are some of the constituents of F&A itself? And let's break it down. And I know today we are going to focus on R2R, but would you mind touching on some of those other aspects of F&A?
Sure, absolutely. RPA is definitely being used across the entire value chain. But if you look at the main components and functions of finance, first of all, you have procure to pay or accounts payable. And in that area, RPA is frequently used to set up new vendors, to process invoices by validating them and matching them against purchase orders and goods receipts. Second major area, order to cash or accounts receivable, where RPA is often used to prepare bills, process payments, support collections. And then the third major area, and that the focus of today's discussion, is around the record to report process. And that process covers most of the core accounting and reporting functions. So it includes areas such as the general ledger close, treasury operations, regulatory and external reporting, financial planning and analysis. And I think EVCA is a useful methodology to help prioritize processes within finance and other areas to determine which would benefit most from automation.
Now, before we go deeper into R2R, which is our topic of discussion today, and how we apply EVCA to R2R in specific, we've been hearing a lot about the role of artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning, and really turning RPA into intelligent automation. what's that looking like in finance and accounting in specific? Are there some certain areas or use cases that you can bring about where AI, machine learning, and intelligent automation in general can be really helpful?
Yeah, that's absolutely a trend in finance as well. And I think overall RPA is being viewed as less of a standalone technology and more, increasingly integrated with cognitive or other AI technologies. Two examples might be, today, machine learning and computer vision and other technologies are being used to intelligently extract information from unstructured documents, whether that's, paper-based, PDF, emails, which is really critical then to use that information to automate processes. And typical examples might be, for example, as I mentioned, invoice processing and accounts payable. Another example is where AI and machine learning models are being used to supplement RPA and really enhance processes such as fraud detection, compliance risk, or exception processing to really help augment human judgment.
Now, before we go forward into a deeper dive into R2R, you mentioned invoice processing. I think it's as good a time as any to mention IQBot, our intelligent automation and I should say intelligent document processing solution that is part of our core enterprise RPA platform that enables organizations to take their unstructured and semi-structured data locked into documents such as invoices, but also handwritten documents, and unlocks that data and turns it into structured data. So really unlocking that information. And why structured data is important is because it is very easy to consume in RPA and helps us automate the process. So for those of you who have not seen IQBot in action, I would encourage, please do visit our website and check out IQBot. There are free trials available. Now, coming back to our topic, Ken, would you mind expanding on R2R itself and how intelligent automation and in connection to that, EVCA can help us really break down R2R into its constituent processes, I should say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the best way to do that is by talking about use cases. So one use case, for example, is in financial planning and analysis. And probably the most common use within FP&A is using RPA for data extraction. Again, it's not real glamorous, but that being said, it's absolutely a critical step to budgeting, forecasting, and reporting. And the key is that RPA is able to quickly access data across a multitude of different disconnected systems and be able to structure that information for forecasting or reporting. And in addition, most importantly, it enables employees to spend a lot more time actually analyzing the information and performing analysis and developing business strategy as opposed to time preparing reports.
So would you mind expanding a little bit and help us understand some of the use cases? And you mentioned FP&A, you mentioned journal accounting. What are some of the real life use cases that you would point out as great candidates for EVCA?
Yeah, absolutely. And another area where there's significant use of RPA is within general accounting. And in particular, one of the most common areas is around reconciliations. And of course, the ideal goal is to take all the reconciliations you can and put them into your company's automated reconciliation system. But there's still many reconciliations that are more complex and performed manually. And for those, they're a great candidate for RPA. One typical use of RPA is to actually post trial balance calculations to the general ledger. And that can be done in 3 easy steps. So first of all, the information can be copied from an Excel spreadsheet that typically holds all the trial balance calculations, and copy all that information, and then open each account within the general ledger and paste that information into the general ledger, including any adjusting entries. And then finally, in order to have a record of those entries, often RPA can be used to then download that trial balance information from the general ledger back into the spreadsheet, perhaps a PDF copy, if you will, so that you have a record of that general ledger transaction being booked. So next, I'll show you a video that demonstrates exactly how that trial balance process would work. In this demo, you'll see an example of how the trial reconciliation balance process can be automated and in particular how trial balances can be uploaded into the general ledger. RPA can be used to prepare trial balances, conduct account reconciliation, as well as data extraction. For the trial balance process, you'll see 3 steps: accessing the trial balance, uploading it into the GL, and updating the trial balance spreadsheet with a sample of what was entered in the GL. Initially, the bot will be run. The bot will access the trial balance spreadsheet. Before copying the information, it'll normalize all the data that's necessary to upload it into the general ledger. So in this case, it's now normalizing the date format. And this information can be uploaded into any general ledger system. In this case, we're showing JD Edwards. After the information is normalized, you'll log into the ERP system and you'll navigate to the very specific general ledger account where the trial balance is going to be entered. You can see the bot finding that specific account, and now it'll input the trial balance information from that Excel spreadsheet into the fields in the ERP system. Once it's done so, it's going to capture a screenshot of the trial balance, and that screenshot then will be pasted back into the trial balance spreadsheet, so you have a record of each entry that was made into the general ledger. That file will be saved, and then next you'll move on to additional trial balances. So you'll go through the exact same process in terms of going to a specific account, copying that into the general ledger system, making that a screenshot copy, and pasting that back into the spreadsheet. Overall, this should give you a good idea of how it can be applied to standardized processes and create more accurate reporting.
We have seen now a look into how automation and robotic process automation and intelligent automation in specific works in the area of finance and accounting, and especially how the R2R function and its constituents can be used to really scale out your automation very quickly. Now, EVCA, of course, doesn't just apply to F&A or just to R2R. It's a framework that can be used in any and all business functions. So let's take a quick look again at what are some of the stages when you approach a business function. And that business function can be finance and accounting, of course, but also it can be an HR function. And think about new employee onboarding in HR. It's the same process repeated over and over again. So high opportunity to automate that process. Similarly, we can think about logistics and supply chain and various functions within IT. And so it's the same process. It's the same 3-step process that EVCA brings to fore to really help you find those opportunities for automation. Step 1 being the long list of processes within that function, identifying them, and then prioritizing those processes to filter for transactional versus content-centric processes. And then finally, shortlisting that filtered list into those processes that provide you the highest opportunity to scale out your automation and therefore get the most out of your automation program, or I should say your intelligent automation program. In addition to what you heard today, what you get with it is a white paper for each of these functions, which explains the various ways EVCA approaches these business functions, F&A, HR, IT, supply chain, and so forth. And also there are white papers and research papers available for you to download about various verticals, including retail and healthcare and banking and finance. And for all of that, you have a link available here, and you can also access them through Automation Anywhere's website at automationanywhere.com. I thank you for joining us today, and thank you, Ken, for taking us through a very extensive view into F&A and R2R today.
My pleasure.
Thank you all, and we'll keep an eye out for the next session, and until then, take care.